Hey there, everybody, and how are you guys doing tonight? This is Joe Mari here with Mobile Cup of Joe's What's Brewing. Starting about 19 minutes late tonight, but we are still going on with the show. We've got most of the crew down, actually, and me, Chuck, and Fred manning the fort tonight and holding up everything because Greg's probably sleeping, Tony's out doing stuff for his church, and then Albie is out for a little summer camp thing with his youth group. So we'll miss you guys tonight, but we know you have other things to do during the summer, busy stuff, so we'll try to keep the tech stuff going, and pretty much tonight you're going to be hearing a lot of Chuck talking, because we've got quite a bit of ones and zeros in our conversation tonight, which is good stuff, but we're definitely going to need someone to kind of help us understand just what it is we're actually talking about, because a lot of it's probably going to sound like gibberish to me and Fred. But anyways, we have a really cool show tonight. Again, like I said, we've got ones and zeros, Chuck, back from the dead Fred, and I want to take a quick second right here before we catch up with the hosts to thank our friends over at audible.com for sponsoring tonight's episode of What's Brewing. If you want a free audiobook download of your choice and a free 30-day trial of the service, don't forget to head on over to audibletrial.com/Mobile Cup of Joe for all that good stuff. They have over 180,000 audiobooks now you can try on your iPhone, any Android device, iPad, or Android tablet, Android smartphone, MP3 player, whatever it may be. You can get it on your device that you have right now. You can just go to audibletrial.com/Mobile Cup of Joe to get both a 30-day free trial of the service and a free audiobook of your choice, no matter what it may be. So thanks very much to Audible for sponsoring tonight's show. Let's go ahead and catch up with you guys real quick here before we get into our news. Chuck, what has been going on with you for this past week here?
Oh, actually quite a bit. I've got some very interesting things. I'm currently reviewing the Blue Studio C here, smartphone for the Mobile Cup of Joe blog. You guys should hopefully see that up within the next week or so. And also, I had the opportunity to pick this up for those of you guys who are listening to the podcast and can't see it. It is the Microsoft Surface 3. That's not the Pro. It is the Surface 3, which has the Intel Atom processor. And I can honestly say that I am in love with the device. I never ever thought that I would say that about a Microsoft device, and I'll be the first to admit it. I was a little skeptical when I got it, but I'm super happy with the purchase. I'm now officially a connoisseur of all tech because I have a Apple laptop I use full time, an Android device, and now my tablet is a Microsoft Surface. So I officially have the entire spectrum covered.
No BlackBerry?
No, sorry. I'm not a masochist, so But I guess I'm missing BlackBerry. Maybe I might have to get one just so I can say I have one. But
well, you got to get your foot in the door with Fire OS though, because the Fire phone's only $179 now for that fantastic device right there.
And well, actually, you did see that they just released Fire OS 5, I guess they're calling it, or whatever.
The developer preview.
Yeah, which is based on Lollipop, so that's kind of cool. Maybe
nice. Yeah.
I don't really like the Fire OS UI itself, but yeah, who knows? Maybe it might be something cool coming up.
Yeah, by the way, I was only half joking about the BlackBerry because apparently the rumor, at least on today's wires, is that BlackBerry is putting out an Android-based device in August. Yeah. So that'll be interesting to see.
If you can't beat them, join them, right?
Yeah.
Nokia tried that. They weren't too successful with it, but
yeah, but they made an Android that looked like Windows on really cheap hardware. That wasn't really the Android device we wanted. Yeah, let's have Nokia make an Android device that looks like a crappy version of Windows phone. That's not really what we asked for from a Windows or an Android phone from Nokia. But about that service too, though, really quick before we get into our main topics, what do you like most about it? Is it just the software, how fast it runs, the build quality? Is there one certain aspect to it, or is it just the whole device in general that works for you?
So the build quality and hardware is amazing. The kickstand is awesome. It is super useful. It is thicker and heavier than an iPad, but I'm okay with it. I've got big hands. I'm a bigger guy, so the extra weight and heft doesn't actually bother me any. The kickstand's amazing. The touch cover is awesome. I mean, just the little things it attaches magnetically, which are super strong magnets, but then it kind of hinges itself up a little bit, so the keyboard itself is a little bit inclined. Just that nice. Little bit, which is a big difference from the Remix. Because I also do have the Remix, which has, of course, the attached keyboard, but it lays flat, and you can definitely tell the difference when you're typing. You wouldn't think about it, but that's big difference. So the hardware definitely, the Atom and battery life on this thing is insane. I had it for a week, using it, as much as I would use probably an iPad. and it lasted the whole week, no issues, before I had to recharge it. So
That's
battery
awesome.
life is easily on par with what you would get with an iPad, which of course is 10 times what you would get with an Android device. And then just Windows 8 was built for touchscreen devices.
Oh, yeah.
That was one of Microsoft's both best things about Windows 8, as well as one of their worst things about it. Windows 8 stinks if you don't have a touch device, but on a device like this, you can really tell what they were trying to do with Windows 8. All the gestures on the screen, the multitasking, switching between apps, everything just makes a lot of sense, and it's all extremely fluid. So it takes a little bit of time to learn all the gestures, but once you do, you can fly through multitasking and window snapping and like, for example, LastPass, which we'll talk about here in a little bit. When you launch it in a browser, it'll actually launch it in a browser but snapped, so you have both LastPass and your browser here. So it does multitasking correctly. I have to say that Windows is much more pleasurable on a device that's really optimized for using the touchscreen with it.
Right, because like I use the Lenovo Yoga Tablet 2 10-inch, which wasn't probably as high-end as the Surface 3, but yeah, if you have a device in that form factor that kind of functions as a laptop tablet like hybrid, you really get a feel for how Microsoft envisioned Windows 8 to be. And I find myself actually using that on the Surface, since I've used like so many Windows 8 tablets in that form factor with the keyboard and the laptop, that I find myself, even still today when I use my Remix, which becomes a rarer and rarer occasion now, that I'm still trying to do those like gestures from the side and the charms bar and all that stuff. So also, another note, if anyone wants to buy a Remix or wants to trade with me for a Surface 3, we will talk after the show, because Chuck's been bragging about this thing all week long, and I can't stand my Remix anymore. But if you're a potential buyer, it's a beautiful device, and I'd be happy to sell it to you for about $600.
I'm still reserving judgment on the Remix. I'm having some frustration with it, but my feeling on it is that the UI and the OS is still a work in progress, and it's still in beta at best. So I'm kind of hoping to see some improvement as time goes on.
Yeah. What about you, Fred? Anything? Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Chuck.
No, I was going to say, and I think you will. Fred, do you have the 1.5 yet for your Remix?
I do not yet, no.
Okay. You'll actually see a pretty big improvement with 1.5. There is definitely a lot better UI, a lot more options. I was a lot happier with 1.5 when I did get that. So your opinion might change a little bit. I don't think it'll drastically change.
We'll see. I don't mind it playing with it, web surfing, playing a little bit of games that I do. When I've tried to use it as a productivity tool, it's been frustrating. Initially because of the keyboard, which was sometimes there, sometimes not, and now is working fine. But editing and so on still leaves a little to be desired. But I'm gonna stick with it. I supported the Kickstarter, and I signed on for the essentially the beta community. So I'll be interested to see how it develops. As far as things are going here, let's see. Well, my youngest son graduated high school, so that's a kind of a life-changing event for him certainly, and for me and my wife as well. Let's see. CE Week next week. I will be attending on Wednesday, which is the main day. And I guess on the outro, I'll give you guys a little bit of previews of some of the info that I've gotten on people that are going to be there. But I'm getting super psyched about that. That's only a few days away.
Yeah, that's awesome. You live in that close to New York, Manhattan. You've got all that awesome stuff like not that far away. Then you're like Chuck and I, who Chuck lives in like the boondocks of Kansas. I live in the farther boondocks of Lawrence, Michigan, and there's not much in the way of conventions and trade shows. So you do have definitely that advantage there. And then of course I've got the advantage too of Lawrence, Michigan, where I'm battling to get 7 megabits for my download speed of my internet. So my week has been battling with my ISP to get me reliable internet, and that hasn't been the case. My Wi-Fi adapter broke on my desktop today, so I had to buy a new Wi-Fi adapter. Thank God for Amazon Next Day shipping, so I could be on tonight's show. So that's been my week in a nutshell. I've been dealing with horrible internet issues since Monday. So I don't complain and rant anymore, let's go and get into this show so we actually talk about some news. Yeah, so as Chuck mentioned earlier, there was a pretty big thing with LastPass earlier this week, where the company and the site essentially got hacked. So I'll let Chuck go and take the reins on this, since this is kind of more of his forte and his cup of tea, so he kind of fill us in and let us know what went down, what information was stolen, and if you use LastPass, if this is something that you should really concern yourself with.
Sure. So, you know, LastPass, for those of you guys who aren't familiar with it, is basically a password management tool. The idea is that you have a strong master password that you would put into LastPass, and LastPass would remember your passwords for all your sites. The advantage of this is that LastPass also has the ability to generate passwords for sites. The idea is that you don't reuse the same password for any two sites. You know, with things being hacked and broken into these days, it's really just not wise to use the same password. But who can really remember all those different sites? I mean, every site these days needs a new password. So LastPass is there to kind of help you, you know, save those passwords, but do it in a secure mechanism. And we'll kind of talk. I'm going to talk about in a few minutes here about what that actual secure mechanism is and kind of how they do it. And why, you know, I'm happy with LastPass even with what happened. So LastPass itself, they discovered there was some suspicious activity on their network. Basically, no one's encrypted user vault data, which is if you choose to store like your credit cards and stuff with LastPass so they can fill into websites. None of that was taken, and the user accounts themselves weren't accessed. What they actually stole was basically email addresses, password reminders, server per user salts, and I'll talk about why that's important here in a minute, and then the actual authentication hashes themselves. The authentication hash is basically the resultant of your password plus a hash, a ton of iterations using a special cryptographic algorithm, and then you get a result which is called the authentication hash. Those were all stolen. So LastPass has super nice, super strong security. You know, I'm not a super security guy. I know enough to be dangerous, but I'm pretty happy with LastPass and what they have. So even though everything was, you know, even though these things were taken, the likelihood of these attackers actually being able to gain anything from this information is pretty small, unless you had a very weak master password. Now, if you chose to use, you know, some dictionary for your master password, or your password hint essentially pointed to exactly what your password was, then you might be in trouble. But if you've taken the appropriate security mechanisms where you have a very strong master password, it's not dictionary based, and your password hint doesn't really help anyone but you get that password, there's really nothing to worry about. You know, with this actual them taking these things. So, you know, why am I not worried, or why don't I think people should be super worried unless they had a bad master password? I would still highly suggest, and LastPass is suggesting this too, you know, go reset your master password. Once you do that, it doesn't really matter whether these people get your master passwords or not. You know, it'll be a moot point by then, because you know, it's going to take these people some time even to crack the most easy of passwords. And that's assuming they can even get any at all. So, you know, definitely go change that. If you use that password on any other sites, which you shouldn't be, your master password is supposed to be the only time you use that password, go change them on those sites too. So I'm going to get a little bit geeky here, just because, you know, I kind of enjoy this kind of stuff. So those of you guys who, you know, don't want to geek out with me for a minute, you know, feel free to, you know, fast forward maybe 10 minutes or so, depending upon how long-winded I am, or just mute your headphones, go get some beer, and, you know, come back in 10 minutes. But basically, just want to talk about real quick about, like, you know, why I'm not super worried with this actual attack on LastPass. So, like I said before, what was actually stolen was the server per user salts and the authentication hashes. So why is this important? Well, what actually happens when you type your master password into LastPass is you have a client user salt, and then of course your password. So what happens is they take your password, they take your salt, they put those two things together, and then they use the SHA-256 hashing algorithm locally and run that 5,000 times. They take the result of that, which is now this big long hash, they send that server side. The server side uses that plus the server side salt and then hashes it another 100,000 times before it finally checks that against what is actually stored in the database. If those two match, then your password is correct and they actually let you into the system. So why is all this important? Well, the first thing is they're using a one-way hash. What that means is that even though these people have this authentication hashes from the database, there's no way to take that hash and get back at your password. It's impossible. That's the whole reason that we use one-way hashes, is they're one way. You can get to that hash, but you can't get back from it. There's ways to, but I'm not going to get too technical on that right now. But so what essentially someone has to do is they've got to take what they think your password is, or some number of what they think your password is, and the most common obviously is a dictionary attack. They've got to take that, they've got to take what they think what the salt is there, they've got to hash this, and then they've got to send it server side to have this hashing happen again. Now the hashing itself is only important because the hashing is actually there to artificially slow down the amount of time that it takes to go from your password and salt to the actual hash itself. Hashing your password plus the salt 5,000 times, you always get the same end result. But it takes time to do that 5,000 iterations. On a local machine here, it doesn't take very much time at all. So a per user doesn't even notice this massive iteration, this 5,000 iterations happening. Or you can actually bump it up more if you wanted to. But when you take a look at, say, 100,000 passwords, well, now you have to do that for 100,000 passwords, where each password has a unique salt, and then you have to do it. So now the time required to do a dictionary-based attack on 100,000 passwords exponentially increases, because even if I use the same password as Fred, it doesn't actually matter. That's the whole reason that they actually use the salt, is that even if our passwords are the same, our salts are different, so the resultant hash is going to be different. So even if they figure out my password, it's not going to look the same as Fred's because his salt is different. So all these things LastPass uses, and these are all common cryptographic password algorithms to use. This isn't anything LastPass created. These are all open, done by RSA Labs. They're actually using what's called the password-based key derivation function. That's kind of the way that that's what this entire the thing I just described. That's actually it's a standard people use. It's out there, source code, whatever, and it's generally agreed upon that it's pretty safe to not have people crack your password. So LastPass is really kind of doing all the best practices when it comes to actually hashing your passwords and figuring all this stuff out. So me personally, even though these people have these things, I know that they're not going to crack my master password in any amount of time in my lifetime. So I'm not even worried at all, but I am very appreciative that LastPass actually did alert people, which is something a lot of companies don't do until it's too late, like Target and all the hundreds of thousands of credit cards that were taken from Target. So, all right, I've geeked out enough. I'll stop boring people, but that was the basics of what happened with LastPass and why I'm not concerned. Change your password, but it's not super concerning.
Well, it's good too, like especially for a service like that where they deal so heavily, or their main focus and their main service to people is with their passwords and their personal information and keeping it safe. So it is good they came out, and even if it wasn't like the most severe hack, they still came out and were clear with hey, this is what happened, this is what was stolen. Yeah, you're gonna want to change your password, but it wasn't it's still a serious thing, but it's nothing that's gonna take people's credit card information and stuff. But when you're dealing with that kind of a service, it's really important to be upfront with people and say, yeah, this is what happened, and here are the details for it. So,
and another good thing is any smart person should have two-factor authentication enabled anyway, which we're going to talk about a little bit later in the show. Yep. So I won't go into it now, but you definitely should be enabling two-factor authentication on anything that supports it.
Definitely. So, moving on from that to our next topic here, which is we're still dealing with password and security. That's kind of the theme for tonight. We do have a thing over OS X and iOS, which is apparently a glitch in their flaws within the operating systems that's apparently letting hackers steal keychain and 1Password content. So, Chuck, or OS 10, not OS X. Okay, Chuck, I'm sorry about that. I hear it pronounced both ways. I don't know. I just went with the X. I don't know.
Well, they're all wrong.
It came after OS 9, so that's how I'm reading it. But hey,
I don't know. I read it Mortal Kombat X, OS X. I don't know. Some people say X, some people say 10. I don't know how it's supposed to go. Anyways, though, yeah. So I'm not super big with security or iOS or OS 10, so I'm probably not the best to lead this story.
Well,
So,
I'll kick this one off. It's in a similar vein, and in this case, it's an Apple issue. It's OS 10 or OS X, depending on who you ask, and iOS. And what has turned up is that there are some huge holes in what they call the application sandboxes, protecting those operating systems. And what this does is that it's allowed people, in this case it was researchers, as far as we know, were able to create proof of concept apps that bust through or sneak through these holes in the sandboxes, and they've been able to steal passwords out of essentially Apple's own keychain, and then other apps and services like iCloud, Gmail, banking applications, as well as third-party stuff like Password and Evernote and so on. What's interesting here is that these proof-of-concept apps were approved by the Apple App Store. And the Apple App Store has certain standards, and among them are security standards. And one of those is that apps that are submitted in order to pass the test are supposed to treat every other app as untrusted. But supposedly, despite going through that vetting process, these apps were able to bypass the sandboxing protections. And to make it clear that to anybody who's not familiar with the term, sandboxing refers to an app or a portion of an operating system running in its own confined environment, playing in its own sandbox, so to speak, so that data and processes that run in that sandbox are not available to other apps. But these security holes have basically allowed people to create apps that can get through these holes, get password information, and obviously it's similar to what we were just talking about. It's an issue. What gets interesting with this is that until this is now known, and nobody really knows if anybody is busy exploiting it, but at the moment, all people can really do is wait for the fix to come on these sort of things, if I'm not mistaken.
Which is interesting because this is, an area in which there's been a lot of kind of hubbub recently, in the fact that, 5 years ago or so, Microsoft was notoriously bad for, if someone found an issue in their system, it might get patched maybe at some point in time, but who knows? And so in response to that, Microsoft, rolled out Patch Tuesday. So, you can guarantee that patches are coming out fairly frequently. Well, Apple's now actually in that exact same role that Microsoft was in, was that in some of these cases where you have these security vulnerabilities, you have absolutely no idea when you're going to get the update from Apple. And there's nothing you can do until you get the update. So, this isn't the first time where some vulnerability has been found in an Apple product, that you're kind of at the mercy of just waiting for Apple. And Apple, as a policy, doesn't discuss exploits. They don't discuss vulnerabilities. They don't discuss patches. So, unlike Microsoft, who is fairly transparent, will go, oh, yep, we got a patch coming, tomorrow or next Tuesday or whatever. Apple won't talk about it. They won't admit it. They won't say it is or isn't a vulnerability. They'll just be at some point in time later in the future, you might get a patch for it. So, anytime you have vulnerabilities like this, then it's a little bit of a concern. Especially when it relates to passwords and keychain in OS 10 is everything. Is everything that stores your certificates and everything else.
Yeah, definitely. Well, like you said, when you're with an Apple device, like, you do just kind of have to rely on Apple to, provide you with an update to something like that, like when they do get to it. So, risk you take when you take a device from the Apple tree there. Well, we've been talking about, I don't know about security stuff. I'm just throwing stuff out there. This is not my forte. You can probably tell that pretty clearly. But We've been talking a lot about, though, of two-step authentication, and as much of a techie as I am, it's sad to admit that I don't know a whole lot about that. I know Chuck's probably gonna tear me up for not knowing a whole lot about two-step, but I hear about it all the time, and it kills me to say I'm just not super fluent with it. But then again, I'm not fluent with any of the security and privacy stuff, which is probably not that great being a tech journalist YouTuber in 2015 when that is a big area of concern for a lot of the stuff we talk about. So let's just lay it out for people that, like me, who can more freely admit it. For those of us lay people that don't know, what is two-factor authentication, not two-step authentication? I can't even say the term right. Two-factor authentication. What is it, and why should people use it? We're talking about for the past half an hour or so right now, all these issues with LastPass and OS 10 and iOS with these security issues. So with all that in mind, why should we concern ourselves with two-factor authentication? Or first of all, what is it really all about?
Well, what is two-factor authentication? So two-factor authentication is kind of exactly what it sounds like. One-factor authentication, which I don't even know if that's real or not, but would basically just be putting your password in somewhere. So if I have Joe's password, then I can sign in anywhere. Well, two-factor authentication adds another layer to that. And so, for example, let's take Google, for example. If you have two-factor authentication turned on Google, you can have it send you a text message with a special code that you also have to enter anytime you sign into a Google service from somewhere it doesn't recognize. So let's say I steal Joe's password, manicure1 or something, and and then I try and log into his Google account from my laptop. Well, if he's got two-factor authentication on, Google's going to notice that I've never logged into his account from my machine, and what's actually going to do is it's going to send him a text message to his phone and say, here's the 6-digit number that you need to put in, and Google's not actually going to let me in until I put that 6-digit code in. So what two-factor authentication essentially boils down to is your password plus some other mechanism, some piece of hardware that only you own. Be it your phone, be it a USB drive that's in your computer, something physical, piece of hardware that only you own. That's a second step to add to putting your password in for the first time for that thing. So why should you enable it? Well, obviously because if someone steals your password, it's useless because they probably don't have your phone also, or they don't have your secured device to kind of get that second level going on there.
I'm just not going to say anything. I'm so hurt from you cracking my Google password.
Well, Joe, we do have a question for you in the QA.
All right.
Joshua Bain wants to know what kind of makeup you use.
Well, I try to make a little mix of L'Oreal Paris and Because You're Worth It and some Elf. I don't know makeup brands. I can't even joke about that. Speaking of Joshua Bain himself, there he is hopping in the hangout right there.
Hey, look, there he is. Finally, someone intelligent joined the conversation.
This is appropriate for the show on hacking and so forth, because at one point in time it was common that if you hacked into a corporation's servers, it would be a good way to get a job there. They figure if you could break into the system, they wanted you on the inside, on their side. So here we got Joshua, who has been for about the last 10 minutes our foil in the Q&A, hitting us with all kinds of cracks, and it got you on the show, man. So welcome aboard.
And believe it or not, I cracked myself into the Hangouts, no invite at all.
Yeah.
So,
just use Manicure1 to log into my password and hop
Your
in
password was straight up, I love my hair. That's all.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is about the point where the podcast and Hangout NR goes downhill, so we thank you all for joining in this week.
Yeah, leave now while it's still been a quality show of sorts.
So, Joshua, let me ask you, LastPass hack. Do you use LastPass? I'm curious.
Well, if I said that, someone might try to hack into me. So that's kind of a personal question. I don't know. No, I don't actually. To be honest, I don't. But I have quite a bit of password. I don't usually use the same password for the same stuff, so I kind of use those basic um,
One, two, three, four,
measures
five.
to, yeah. I mean, it's that coming, man. I got to hold on. I'll be right back. No, it's like, I don't know. Like, I'm kind of the person that stands in a position of where I somewhat trust things, and if someone wants to hack into something, they're going to hack into it. And as long as you got like the basics down, I think. I mean, you can. It's one of those things you can never do more than enough, but at the same time, you still have to trust the ones that put together everything too. So that's my, I guess, little 2 sentences about that. That's how I use it, though. I don't use the master password kind of stuff. I've looked into it. The most security that I've used on my phone is actually the Galaxy S6's fingerprint scanner.
Yeah,
I use that all the time now. So.
Yeah, I've like looked into LastPass and like other services where it's one master password, but I thought they were neat for sure, but I just never found myself at a need to really have to use a service like that where I was really so. I mean, I know it's a convenient way to like really make sure your information is secure, but I've just never felt a big draw to use a service or something like that.
I've been using a tool called Password Box, which honestly I got about a year ago when they were running a sale on it, and I had never used a password manager before, and it's kind of neat, with the exception that I now don't always remember my passwords, and even though I've got it as a Chrome extension, there's always that time when you're either logging in from an unfamiliar device or the Chrome extension stops working, and now I don't remember all my passwords any longer. So it's a blessing and a curse, and who knows how secure it actually is.
Mm-hmm.
But, I remember just like thinking of passwords almost makes me like get a headache because with my military background, man, they make you come up with the most bogus passwords that I have the kind of set passwords that I have them memorized by now, but they're not just ones they're not like full words. They're just like actually just random letters and numbers that I memorize, kind of thing. But with the military, man, it's like for every single login that you have to have a different kind of password. So it's like I remember having to carry around like because phones they're not as accessible when you're on the clock doing stuff. So I used to have like an old school little notebook that would just have a notepad that had every little password down there, and it's like it was probably 10 of them, and they all had to look different than the other one, and they had to be like 10 characters plus long. They had to be like a bunch of different numerical stuff, and then symbols, all kinds of stuff. It was crazy. Like it couldn't have like the same anything inside the password. Like you couldn't have 2 2s in there or something. It was ridiculous.
Wow. That little notepad becomes like your master password then.
Yeah, exactly. That's just old. I mean, it's old school, but it's also reliable.
That's the low-tech way. Actually, that's what my father-in-law does. He actually has a little book that he writes all his passwords down in. That's how he remembers them all.
Yes.
Well, it's never going to crash.
That's true.
Yeah, so, talk about old school. I saw a thing that I don't remember where I saw this, but it was kind of a survey, kind of a half-joking survey of people working in offices, and it was what's the first thing that you go to pilfer from the desk of a coworker who has left the job, and the one of the ones was their list of passwords taped to the bottom of their telephone. So
I was actually speaking of passwords and stuff. I found a news article that I saw earlier in the week. I just realized it relate perfectly to the whole password thing. There's a company in the UK called Intelligent Environments, and apparently they are using a new service or system now, a new PIN system, where they're actually using emojis instead of numerical numbers for PIN passwords. So.
Like the pictures emojis?
Yeah, like the picture emojis, like that you have on your Android or iPhone, whatever device. So I guess they started doing this.
I don't see how that could be possible, because there's times where my wife, like, she's got an iPhone or I've got Android, and there's sometimes like the different emojis that actually don't match up as the same.
Yeah, well, they have a quote in here. They from Intelligent Environments. They said, quote, "A traditional PIN equals 7,290 unique permutations of 4 non-repeating numbers versus emoji passcode equals 3,498,308 million unique permutations of non-repeating emojis based on a selection size of 44 emoji. So, I mean...
my head.
Yeah, you thought Shuck was bad tonight, the ones and zeros. I'm getting down and dirty with the emojis tonight.
I know. As long as I can use the big steaming pile of you-know-what for one of my emojis, I'm totally using that for my password.
There's only like 4 of those.
Poop, poop, poop. What I love about SwiftKey keyboard, I don't know, I don't want to get off too much of a subject, but it's like, it's got the predictive emojis and stuff.
Yes.
So when you're typing out a word, it's like you say, oh, that's cool, poop. I'll just select that.
What do you guys think about possible emojis as passwords in the US?
If my 360 would ever get the 511 update, I could.
Seriously, man, that's just ticking me off.
Yeah, Patrick and Juan both got those updates today.
I saw some video.
Oh yeah, I saw a number of people on Google Plus posting their 511 updates on 360 downloading.
I saw some random post on Google Plus about like you reset the watch, and then while it's resetting, you disable the Bluetooth or you unpair it, and then uninstall Android Wear, and then install Android Wear again. And just like, why do I have to go through this to get a stinking OTA? This is ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, so I guess
it's
they
just
figured out...
it's just stuff to keep busy while you're waiting for it. Is what it sounds like.
It's a pain in the butt just to set up or resetting the watch as it is. Like I can't stand like if you want to switch a phone with the Moto 360, you got to reset the whole watch. Like that that needs to be fixed in a heartbeat. Like 2 years ago.
Yeah, it is quite annoying. And the thing is I guess maybe they figured out some way to reset your unique ID, so the way that they figure out whether you get the update or not is when you hit that check update button, it sends that ID. And then, if they say you don't get it, then yeah. Doesn't matter how many times you click that update button, you ain't getting it until they decide that ID. It's like, just stop. Just give me the update.
Yes. Back to emojis, like it reminds me of like I was working on a phone back when I was a phone tech, and the person had their iPhone folders. Everything was set up as emojis, like it wasn't words or labels. And I'm sitting there trying to find, like, it was like a password in itself just to get the stinking apps. I'm just like, I can't find the settings. I need to find the camera so I can test everything out, and I couldn't test it out. It was just like so frustrating. So I think we're onto something that we're no longer, like we're already an like illiterate country as it is. So I think we're just going to go to, I guess the modern day pop-up picture books. Like we use pictures for everything.
Yeah, like 20 years from now, we'll be teaching kids how to teach them the alphabet. It's like, here's the emoji alphabet, and this is how you talk.
Dude, we are going back to hieroglyphics.
We really are.
There's not going to be anything. There's no words anymore.
It is crazy, though, I know, because just going on Twitter or just texting some of my friends, I mean, there'll be maybe 3 words and then just a whole string of emojis, or just an emoji sometimes I'll get and no words at all. I'll be like, hey, what are you doing? And then I just get emojis. Like, that's not answering my question.
If someone responds to me with more than one emoji, I'm immediately blocking them. I'm just saying, that's all.
There's this podcast that I listen to a lot, the Relevant podcast, and they would go on these tangents about emojis. It's so funny. They talk about, because iOS just got a new update with a new added a bunch of emojis, and so their challenge, the way that they talk to each other is through emojis. Like, what do you want to go eat today? And so they type out in emojis what they want to go eat today or something like that. It's pretty funny.
Let's see. Well, I don't want to get off track too much. I mean, I don't really care. I mean, we've been getting off track the whole show since Joshua got on here, but
it's all relative. Come on.
Yeah. Well, I know you mentioned in here that it's difficult when you get a new device to switch your Moto 360 around. But we're all Nexus 6 users in here. I saw your follow-up review of the Nexus 6 a couple days ago, and you've got me, Chuck, and Fred here, all big fans of it, and I was really surprised to hear that you weren't that geeked up about it. just a side, nothing else.
You just put him on the spot. Way to go, Joe. Put the guest on the spot.
Let's have an intermission. No. if you watch the video, it definitely sums up my thoughts about it. And the thing is like, what's weird is how I've evolved with what I like in a device now. And it's to the point where I just kind of want it to work. I want it to already have features. I want it to be this and that. But the thing, and at the current job that I was at, I was lawn care landscaping, and there's times where it sounds funny. I'm riding a mower, or I've got the equipment in the other hand, and I just need to respond to a message, answer a phone, or anything like that. It's just so much easier to just use it one-handed. And I've got big hands. I'm 6'3". I'm a tall guy. Got long fingers, hands, whatever. But it just became really cumbersome to use. So it was actually different reasons this time around that the Nexus 6 was a turnoff for me. The first time around is because I was having glitchy problems. It was this and that. And I'm a big camera geek. Like, I like picture quality and stuff. And when you use the Galaxy S6 for so long and then you switch over to the Nexus 6, it's like night and day in my opinion. And I'm not like, yes, the Nexus 6 can take great pictures when it's in good lighting and stuff, and it's not horrible, but it's not good in my opinion. So, and then like the front-facing camera is just another thing. Like, the front-facing camera is just horrible to me. It was really, really grainy and stuff like that. But I mean, the benefit to it though is like if you like to tinker, and the thing is, I haven't had time to tinker with the phone as much as I used to. I just need something to work. Like, I have my Galaxy S6 is rooted. I got some rooted apps going and stuff like that. TouchWiz doesn't bother me as much. It's more like a thing of like, that's just water under the bridge now. I've built a bridge, got over it. It's not a big deal to me anymore. And it's
Well, it's
actually
not that bad on the S6 either. Like,
yeah, I was
actually
just about to
speeding up a
say
lot.
it's toned down quite a bit from what it used to be like. So and then like it's got stuff in there that looks like Lollipop. Like all the pop-ups look like Lollipop, like you would get on the Nexus 6 anyways. I mean, it's fun to load up custom ROMs and all that kind of stuff. I just don't have time to reset everything up so much, and that I think that's the reason why one of the reasons why I went back to the Galaxy S6. I actually enjoyed using the S6 more now, so that's what I'm going to use.
One of our guests we've had on quite a few times, went back to the G3 because they have a farm, and they're out on the farm all day, and nothing except for that G3 with like a 9,000 milliamp hour battery could last them all day while they're out, doing their thing. So, I definitely see where a lot of people, especially battery life, could be a concern. Me personally, I'm on Verizon, so if I don't have a Nexus 6, I'm basically screwed for updates. So I'm kind of tied to a Nexus 6 when it comes to that.
Well, that's what I liked about the LG G3 last year was that it had an unlocked bootloader, and I was able to load up CM12 and all kinds of stuff like that, and that was a great phone because it had a great camera and 5.5-inch screen is my happy medium. I like that size screen, and performance was
G3 had
good.
a nice form factor too. Like, it was a good screen size, but the bezels were so small in it that it was like a pretty compact actually. For
yeah,
that
it was
screen.
Crazy matching it up to my wife's iPhone 6 Plus and how they had the same exact screen size, but the 6 Plus just almost dwarfed the G3.
Well, the 6 Plus is basically the same size as the Nexus 6, and it has a half an inch smaller display, which is like really impressive on Motorola's part and kind of set on Apple's. I mean, like I know the 6 Plus, like people that I know they have it are in love with it, but it's just you look at how phones are made. It's crazy. You can have a phone with like half an inch bigger, smaller screen size, and have generally like the same form factor of the device.
Yeah, that's crazy.
But,
the other it's got an apple on the back of it, though.
Yeah. There you go. The other big, like, talking about the screen was working outside. The Galaxy S6, like, it's got a bigger enhancement, like, when it pops up. Like, I know, like, the other two former Samsung phones that they introduced that feature to brighten the display in the sunlight, but the S6, like, it popped.
It's
like
insane.
I can read easily in the sunlight, and that was really nice when you're working outside. The Nexus 6, even as big as the screen it was, I was holding it up like right here just to watch or read a message or something. So it was just like little stuff like that. Is the reason why I was like, I can justify the price now because I think the price is what it should have been introduced as. But at this point, but I don't know, just for right now, like it was just the S6 was a lot easier to use for me.
Yeah, like I do agree with you. Like the camera, I don't have that big of an issue with it. I mean, it's definitely not the best out there, just because I'll just touched up like crazy on Snapseed or something. But it is really harsh with the touch to exposure because if you depending on where you touch on the screen where the viewfinder's at, it can drastically change what the picture's going to look like just because of how harsh the exposure does change with it. And then yeah, I saw the price go down from like what it was $650 to $499, and then I saw that after all the stuff about Android M, I saw Android or Google Now on tap. I'm like, I have to have my hands on this as soon as the update comes out. I'm gonna sell the Idol 3 and get the Nexus 6 because if I do, because like the Idol 3 is a damn good phone for $250, but
Yeah.
I know that's not going to get an update to Android M anytime soon. I'm like, I need to have Google Now on tap as soon as I can because I'm a huge Google Now nut, and that just looks so freaking cool.
Yeah, I think with the price point and then having this updates, like I was like, man, it'd be nice to have a Nexus 6 right now, cause yeah.
You know, well, 650 was a bit of a steep price. I know that's roughly the same price for a flagship phone, but $499 is about the right price where it should have been, just because
Yeah.
it's like Nexus devices, like since the Nexus 4, I think have been known for having a cheaper entry point for developers, and $499 is still a bit more of a premium than Nexus 5, but it's worthy of a $500 price tag, where I wouldn't say it's as worthy of $649, but $499 it can definitely hold that and justify a purchase of a price point like that.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, do you guys have anything else you want to shoot the breeze about, or do you want to wrap this thing up here?
I have
I thought we
absolutely
just got
nothing.
started, man.
Hey Josh, you want to buy a Remix tablet?
It's tempting. I'm in the market for a new tablet, but I have
You
to
have a
go.
Surface 3 you want to trade?
I got to go through upper management in order to purchase anything. So
Well, upper management has a Surface 3 they'd like to trade it for a Remix tablet. We can definitely have some talks about that.
do you know who upper management is?
I'm
You're
guessing
married.
it's your wife.
You're married, right?
The two married guys laughed right as soon as you said
Exactly.
that. So, yeah.
I just got that as soon as Chuck said something, but I'm not married, so I think that's okay.
We're trying to, get you ready.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Being a techie ain't easy when you're married.
No, it's not.
Just like you have to renegotiate, you have to try to think of ways like, well, if I do this and then if I do that, maybe this will help counter or cancel this out, kind of thing.
See, the trick is let her buy something and then go, well, you just bought that. I want to. So,
See, my wife,
You
she's
got
got buyer's remorse on everything. So
Ah.
it's like, she's the one that's really good with the finances and all that kind of stuff. So it's just like, it's literally me like, hey, honey, can I?
You know, it's interesting because I'm also a musician. I play guitar, and I've got my stuff and my gear. But people talk about musicians also that want to buy a new guitar or a new piece of effects pedal or something, and the same situations. And I've had guys who told me they can buy something, leave it in the trunk of the car when they get home, walk in the house, and their wife knows that they just bought some new gear.
It's the truth, man. It sucks. It's
Yeah.
like the thing is, it's not just about new gear. It's like it's adding to your passion, like enhancing your passion, and like that's the hard part to try to communicate to the significant other. It's just like it's not just about getting something else. It's about like making what I love better. So and they don't get that. They don't equivalate that to how we feel about it. So
yeah.
take notes,
Yeah.
Joe. Take notes.
Take
I'm just
yeah.
a broke high school student, so I can't buy tech in general, so I just scrape it up when I can or wait for Christmas and all that good stuff. So
That's okay. Once you're married, it's like being a broke high school student.
Not too much.
if you have any questions for the love advice here with the Brew Crew, let us know in the Q&A or the comments.
Hey, I just got my degree in counseling. I'm ready. Let's hit it up.
Send us emojis on Twitter and we'll try to decipher your love questions.
Yes,
Yeah, exactly.
that would be awesome. Are there any questions from the audience?
In the Q&A, Sahil Tuari sent a link and said by the time Mr. Haines will be finished, New Horizons would have already reached Pluto.
That was in the password cracking discussion.
I went a little bit long-winded on that, Yeah.
Speaking of Pluto, like we could get on. Like Joe, were you around when they changed it to just a star?
Were you born yet?
That was like.
Were you born
Shut
yet?
up. That was like what, 3 years ago?
3 years ago? That was devastating. I grew up my whole life as Pluto as a planet.
Well, I
which
know
is not
because
right.
I only know my planets though from the Blue's Clues. On the Sun's a hot star, Mercury's hot too, Venus, bright planet, Earth's home to me and you, and then like, nope, Pluto's not a planet anymore. You got to take it out of the sun. Like, no, I'm still sitting in my freaking Blue's Clues planet sun with Pluto at the end.
So here's a question: if think about Disney, going back to cartoons, because you brought up cartoons, is that Mickey's dog? If Pluto was not a planet back then, what would the dog's name be?
Uranus? Is that the next one?
That would be kind of awkward. A bunch of kids walking around saying Uranus.
It's Neptune, by the way, Joe, but that's okay.
That's why you're on the ones and zeros.
Well, you hacked my password. I'm just kind of like, I don't really care anymore. You got my password. I'm naming the planets wrong. It's all going downhill. Man, kids' cartoons are weird today, too. I mean, like, you read up cartoons, like, I like Tom and Jerry and Wacky Racers and the Smurfs. Now there's just, like, some weird crap out there. Like, I was watching Cartoon Network on Sling TV the other day, and, like, what has happened to children's, like, cartoons? Like, this is not what I grew up with at all.
Yeah, what's interesting about that kind of stuff, like looking back about what my parents let me watch, and then I have kids now, I'm just like, what were you thinking? You let me watch.
I do that on a daily basis.
Like, I throw up on Netflix or Hulu or any other like streaming service. I'm just like, yeah, I used to watch this as a kid. Let's watch this too. And I'm like, no, turn this off. Turn this off. It's like, this is bad. The kid should not be watching a bunch of stuff about witches and just really bad stuff like violent things and just
every
like,
Saturday morning cartoon we used to watch.
Oh my gosh. It's like Roadrunner. All he wanted to do was kill the dude. It's like, if you think about all these concepts, it's just like, my gosh, what did my parents do to me?
Why don't I try watching Tom and Jerry now, and I feel like really sad for Tom because his mouse is like terrorizing him and abusing him.
Tom and Jerry was bad, but Roadrunner, I have to say, Roadrunner and Wile E. Coyote, I always wanted to get the catalog to the Acme company. If you remember, Wile E. Coyote was always coming up with these devices, and they always came like in a shipment from Acme company.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if it was going to be the anvil he dropped on him or a bomb or something. I always wanted to be able to get stuff from them.
Yeah, like, where's the store? Where can I buy that? Because my brother is bothering me just as much as he is.
That's awesome. We've really derailed. We've gone from security to Nexus 6 to marriage advice to parenting to cartoons to Acme. We've like just, where are we going next?
Downhill, you know.
Where do we go to hear from next with as far as tech goes? Because we're kind of in that like awkward moment where there's not much happening. Like,
yeah,
we've gone through all the like most of the first year devices. The OSs have been introduced, so it's just like a waiting period now.
Yeah, I mean, like that kind of like weird summer month, like after the big press conferences, and just kind of like waiting for the gadgets to come out. It's always a slow month, like until we get to September, like through June, July, and August, it's just kind of like a slow month after I/O and WWDC. There's not a whole lot that really goes on.
It was kind of last year I went to the Big Andrew barbecue, which I hope some of y'all might be able to go. Is that the Google developers that were there? It was at the same timing, like they introduced the Lollipop stuff to us before, like publicly to us before they did to the public. Like they said it's actually being released this morning, but the announcement wasn't happening until that afternoon. So it was pretty cool. That made
pretty sweet, actually.
Yeah, we felt really special.
You're very special, Joshua.
Thanks, man. You are too. I'm jealous of you, man. You got some good hair. I don't got nothing. That's why, I got a hat on all the time. I cover up my baldness.
Well, Chuck just flashes it out there. He's proud to show it off.
Yeah, I'm more considerate than that, so. I'm just messing with you. Keeping it interesting, I guess.
Well, we've hit about an hour. Should probably start wrapping stuff up, and we'll probably still talk about it when I do the outros for everybody to see where you're going this week with everybody. So yeah, thank you to Audible for sponsoring this wacky show of What's Brewing. All the shows through the summer are probably going to end up being similar to this just because there's not a lot of big news to talk about. So if you want just tech news and marriage advice and counseling and emoji talk, that's probably what these next shows up until September are going to be about. So welcome to the summer edition of What's Brewing. But thank you so much to Audible for sponsoring tonight's show. Once again, head over to audibletrial.com/mobile cup of joe to get a free 30-day trial of the service and get a free audiobook trial of your choice. Again, that is audibletrial.com/mobile cup of joe. Thank you so much to Audible for sponsoring tonight's episode of What's Brewing. So, Chuck Haines, what's going on with you for this next week here, going into one of the last weeks of June coming up?
What am I doing? Well, I'm going to sit here and hang myself while I wait for the Moto 360 5.1 update and my Google Fi invite. I'm at this point pretty sure I'm not going to get either one of them, so I guess I'm going to do absolutely nothing this week but wait. I'm just kidding. Mostly work. I would like to get Google Fi, though, at some point in time before they stop, sending out those really awesome welcome packages. So, please, Google, really, let me have it.
If you're watching, Mr. Google.
If Google decided to watch tonight's show of all shows, that would be very sad. of all the shows we have, they choose tonight to watch it. Oh, that'd be bad. That'd be really rough. Well, yeah, I was actually checking to see because I thought I'd got a Fi invite, but I guess I didn't, and that would be really sad if I did in Lawrence, Michigan, where it's not available. But no,
it's like
sadly do not.
I want to get Google Fi, but what could I do with it? Nothing.
I'm pretty sure I would
get Wi-Fi
because they choose one of the worst networks in the world.
Well, Chuck, just use now that you know Manicure One, just like check my account and check your Google account too, so you have two accounts that have checked out my invites.
Yeah, but the problem is the Fi invite's tied to your email address. So Alvy has one and doesn't want it and sent it to me, but I can't.
Well, I'm not so sure about that because I haven't activated mine yet, but I did click through from the invite, and the first thing that comes up is a question that asks if you want to use this email address or a different one on your Google Fi on your Project Fi account.
Really?
And that was actually, and then I backed out and said, I wonder if I want to create a new account for this one.
Huh.
I think I'm not going to. I think I'm going to do what you were talking about, which is port my Google Voice number over to that and activate it.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm jealous of people that actually have service with, what is it, Sprint and T-Mobile they're using for Fi?
Yeah, well, I'll be eager to try that because T-Mobile, as I think I've mentioned to you guys, is really quite good mostly in my area, except not in my house. I don't get T-Mobile signal here at all, which is why I've got to use Wi-Fi calling, but I do get a Sprint signal here pretty well, and I get review devices from Sprint, and they all work here pretty well. So if it's going to seamlessly move from Sprint to T-Mobile, that could be a great solution for me.
Well, and Project Fi uses Wi-Fi calling anyway, if you're near it. So
that's a freaking awesome. What are those welcoming packages you're sending now? I haven't seen those at all.
I think it's got a case, it's got headphones, and
Nice.
a battery pack, which is like 8,000 milliamps or something like that.
That's awesome.
Which is, it's worth signing up for me just for that.
Yeah. I'll get a Surface I can't use, but I'll get a free battery pack and a case and headphones, so it's worth it.
Well, Sprint's a Kansas company, so there's plenty of Sprint networks around here.
Yeah, there's zero Sprint or T-Mobile networks out here because I live in Lawrence, Michigan, which is a hellhole for anything. What about you, Fred? What's going on with you? Anything exciting coming up this next
CE Week.
Yeah,
CE Week,
definitely.
New York City. Next, it's I guess it's about 4 days. I'm planning to be there on Wednesday, which is the main day of a full day of exhibitions and some other stuff. There are some kind of side days where they've got some auto show. I don't think I'm going to be able to get the time to attend those. Yeah, no, nobody offered me any cars to review last time. But among the things that I'm starting to get a lot of emails from both from the vendors themselves and from PR companies, and there will be a fair amount of Android Auto stuff going on, as well as the usual stuff. And for those who are watching or listening that may not know, CE Week is a big CE consumer electronics show. So everybody is there, from audio, video companies. Let's see who's reached out to me. Dolby is going to be there with all kinds of audio stuff. Polaroid with their latest cameras. Onkyo, Altec. And then there's some new innovative stuff. I got a email from PR people handling something called iRig, which is a guitar interface for Android, which is close to my heart. And so it's all the big guys are there, and additionally, there's last year there was a whole side room with all new innovative startup kind of products, which is the more interesting stuff to me, quite honestly. But real super excited. So we'll have some stuff to talk about, and hopefully some pictures and some stuff to review coming out of there as well by the next show.
Very cool, guys. I'm so freaking jealous of you. You live in New York. You gotta go to the G3 conference. You gotta go to CE Week, and then I go to a cornfield, and that's about it around here. So, that's awesome, though.
That's the price you pay for fresh air and clean water and stuff.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, very cool. Definitely looking forward to your articles and coverage of that for the channel. It'll be really nice to be able to actually cover a, kind of conference or something, and have a website to talk about it. It'll be very fun. All right, what about our hacker for the night, Joshua Bain? What's going on with you?
Well, I'm actually starting a new job tomorrow, so that's exciting.
Nice.
Getting out of lawn care landscaping finally. Going into being I don't even know what the actual official title is, but it's like a content creator. Like, I'm going to be working with this company's websites and basically enhancing that experience for customers. I'll be on the Amazon seller side of the table this time, so that's going to be interesting.
Nice.
It's an internet sales, so I'll be doing the product listings, the photography, the videos, website content, all that kind of stuff. So it's pretty cool because it's a goal that I've had for the last year or so to try to get into getting paid for something that I like to do.
Yeah, definitely.
So I'm definitely looking forward to that. I'm not sure too much what I've got tons to do for Bain Tech, but with it being a new job, new week, and stuff like that, I'm probably gonna kind of take it easy on the Bain Tech side of stuff and just try to get acclimated to the new schedule. And which is exciting because this last job I was working, it was like 50, 60 hours a week. I had time for nothing else. Yeah, I'm so happy to not have to work those kind of hours anymore. It's going to be the Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, and
that's nice.
Be home with the family more.
That's awesome. Well, congrats on that. That's really cool.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
As for me, though, what's going on? I've got a wedding I'm going to tomorrow, so that'll be a lot of fun. And then I've got, actually talking, there's a new coffee shop going in next town away from me, so I'm working building a website for them, which will be the second site I built for a new company, and that town should be a lot of fun to do because I get to get paid for something I do that I love, so that's always a lot of fun. And then aside from that, just doing my job at the movie theater still, which has been going on for 3 weeks now, which is a lot of fun, even though I'm pre-mutated with the smell of popcorn and butter, so it's either a plus or a minus, I don't really know, depends how you look at it. I can't stand popcorn anymore, but yeah, that's going good, just the job, and I actually got, I haven't been on the channel or the socials all that often this week because my Wi-Fi adapter, my desktop decided to break. So, is this going to reach? It's not. I don't know. I got the new one in today. It was like $15 on Amazon, but it actually works really well, and I can actually pick up a Wi-Fi signal from my router downstairs. So hopefully the video quality, the audio quality was okay for tonight's hangout here. I'll be able to actually get on here and not drop out 50 times like I did last week. So I've got a few videos that I think upload on the channel. Tony's unboxings of the Blue Life 8XL and of the Blue Life Pure 1, or the one, those went up today, so definitely check those out. And then check out my video I did of my top 5 material design applications for Android. Oh, that was a lot of fun to make. And then just throughout the summer, lots of awesome videos, not just unboxings and reviews, just top 5s, how-tos, any videos you guys want to see, comment below. or just reach out to us on the socials with videos you want to see, and we will definitely be able to get those up. But thank you if you made it this far into the show tonight for tuning in. It was a lot of fun. It went downhill. We had a guy hack into us who figured out my password for Google.
Y'all are just insulting me over here downhill. What's going on, man?
Just trash you the minute you join. But no, it was a lot of fun, though. Thanks for hopping on. And, yeah, we'll see you guys again next week, maybe with a full crew, maybe not, maybe with just random people. I don't know how this thing's going to go, but thank you so much for joining us tonight. And we'll be back again at our normal time next week at 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. So thank you guys so much for watching. Have a great night, and we'll see you next week. Have a great night for the second time. Good night.